but it's not me.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm in that category.
Did you see Glenn Close last night doing the butt?
I saw her do it.
Doing the butt.
Yeah,
you have to say
did.
that.
Doing the butt.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds so funny when a white guy says that. Doing the butt.
Doing the butt. Faye What with us tonight? Faye What? And Manny Simone is with us tonight.
Doesn't Manny Simone have like one of those names? Like he should be like on an OnlyFans
He should be on it. I was going to say MSNBC.
Oh, okay.
And you went to OnlyFans.
Usually one leads to the other.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Your career at MSNBC ends, and then you go to.
Very true. You're
Got it.
absolutely right.
All right. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It is Lesbian Visibility Day. And yes, I can see Faye What? That's it. It's time to queer up the news. It is 7 p.m. Monday, April 26th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
The world's first live daily queer evening news show, Out of the Closet and Into the Headlines on Q News Tonight.
Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. So whatever happens, you're going to see it. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor Faye What? She's out, she's proud, and I tell everyone she's certainly loud. She's a Latina to be reckoned with. She's half Puerto Rican, half Colombian, which means she's 100% freaking Jersey.
Loud!
She is a radio personality and has the popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, a board member at Unity Coalition, and the host of UC Television, an animal advocate and owner of Faye's Fur Family, and is the anchor of the travel news show Happening Out Travel. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, boys. Happy to be here with you both.
Well, next, let's welcome anchor Manny Simone. You know him. He is a private voice and piano teacher, performer, and a correspondent and writer for Hotspots Media Group. He has previously worked as the news anchor for South Florida Gay News and Wilton Live, for the Broward Center for Performing Arts, and is a singer with the Master Chorale of South Florida, and has worked with community organizations such as the Slow Burn Theater Company, Latino Salud, and Deliver the Dream. Good evening, Manny.
Hey, Al.
Well, tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, April 26. Let's begin by queering up politics. LGBTQ community evaluates Biden's first 100 days. As the Biden administration's first 100 days comes to a close, the LGBTQ community looks back to promises made and promises delivered. He is succeeding in reversing Trump policies. That has to be first and foremost considered an overall win to the LGBTQ community.
This includes climate by rejoining the Paris Accord and having the Climate World Leaders Summit. He has delivered, and more to the attack on COVID-19 pandemic with the national plan that included countless efforts for payroll protection, small business protection, schools reopenings, vaccine distribution, and much, much more. 92% of Americans approve of Biden's coronavirus plan. Biden has rejoined the world in restoring faith in allies, strengthening NATO, denouncing dictators, and squarely placing Russia and Vladimir Putin in a different position than Trump.
But perhaps no greater evaluation of the first 100 days would be in policy implementation for the LGBTQ community. It is a clear contrast. Donald Trump repeatedly told the lie that he was the greatest LGBTQ president in history. The first 100 days since Donald Trump, we are watching the greatest LGBTQ president in history. The administration's embracement of diversity is beyond anything in history, reversing the transgender military ban, massive civil rights embracements, by submitted legislation and executive order, appointment of the most diverse cabinet in history, including first ever gay and first ever trans cabinet position.
The reversal of the pride flag ban at U.S. embassies, and a commitment to voice support for the LGBTQ community around the world. Immediate support of the Equality Act, the appointment of LGBTQ members in key departments of defense and other administrative posts, and much more. The American LGBTQ community has literally never seen a first 100 days like they have in 2021, especially in contrast to the nightmare of the previous 4 years.
Boys, a lot of us are like abused people. I mean, for 4 years, we had somebody that was just an abuser, treating us like crap and not allowing us to sit at the table. With Biden, in 100 days, we're at the table and we're talking, and he's coming through with all his promises. At least I think so. Even if the Equality Act doesn't pass, it still screams a huge message that we matter and we belong and we are important.
Yeah, I agree. You know, first of all, it's nice just to wake up in the morning and be able to take a breath and to realize who is our president now in comparison to not too long ago. There was a really cool Associated Press article that said that he made approximately 61 major promises and he's fulfilled 24 of them, and 33 are still in progress, and around 4 that he has not started yet. So we still have to hold him accountable, just because, I mean, I am Democratic, but just because we have a Democratic president doesn't mean that we're just going to let him slide. We do need to hold them accountable, but I mean, for 100 days, I mean, I think that we're on the right track.
That's a really good ratio there, though.
I think so.
It's funny. I want to consider today in a little broader terms, because I completely agree with what both of you said. But it seems to me, in analyzing the first 100 days after what we went through for 4 years, we have reported at Queer News Tonight, in 2020, we reported on Donald Trump in every single daily broadcast. And it generally was terrible, terrible news. So as we finish the first 100 days, we have to stop and take a breath, and take the breath in, and then have gratitude of the fact that we are talking about watching in the last 100 days the greatest implementation of support for the LGBTQ community in 100 days in American history. And that is cause, if for nothing else, celebration for today.
Definitely,
Agreed.
definitely. Next, we queer up entertainment. Sam Smith honors their non-binary identity with a new tattoo. Singer-songwriter Sam Smith has unveiled their brand new tattoo that highlights their non-binary identity. The singer tapped in tattoo artist Miles Langford from the London Social Tattoo to get the new addition. Langford took to his Instagram to showcase his work with the caption, quote, "Icon, Sam Smith. Thanks for getting tattooed. Swipe to see Sam's new tattoo and for a good time," end quote. Smith publicly came out as non-binary genderqueer in 2019. Smith said, quote, "I've always had a little bit of a war going within my body and my mind. I do think like a woman sometimes. In my head, sometimes I've questioned, do I want a sex change? And it's something I still think about, like, do I really want to?" End quote.
Well, first of all, you know, I am a supporter of tattoos. I have a pretty large one on this side of my body.
Show it. No.
Yeah, well, that's for the after hours show. We'll show it. But you know, I looked at the tattoo, and it's a really nice tattoo. I actually enjoy it. I think that the image is pretty powerful. And for someone like Sam Smith, who is an icon, who has a platform, I really appreciate when people in positions of that type of power use their platform to showcase something like that and to help normalize things like someone who's considered non-binary.
Completely understood in what you just said. Sam Smith also has another tattoo of 2 men, which I think is also interesting. And by the way, I'm going to get to see the tattoo in the After Hours show also. I'm very excited now.
That's the only reason I'm able to get on the show, is if I promise that. So
Wait,
got to pay the dues.
You say that like it's not true. The thing that I think is really interesting about Sam Smith and his representation is his quotation in conjunction with it. He is completely willing to say, you know, I explore my gender in so many different ways. And I'm not afraid to say, this crosses my mind all the time. Whether he does anything about it is not the most important thing. That he puts these thoughts in front of so many people that are afraid to even admit that they're thinking about it is one of the reasons Sam Smith, I think, is becoming iconic in our community.
He definitely is, and what a great representation that he is. I mean, he's a freaking superstar now.
Exactly.
But let me say something about that tattoo. You were saying that it was nice. I mean, I have tattoos, tattoo guys as friends, like Vinny, I love you. That was not a great tattoo. He could have gotten a better looking tattoo, bro.
John,
Yeah, you think so?
yeah, I was going
It
to
was
say.
cute. I liked it. I liked the image. It was cute.
It was okay.
Just okay?
It was just okay. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, we're revoking national lesbian visibility.
Come on, I'm still visible. Visible.
We saw you.
Consider yourself seen, Faye.
Right,
Got it.
right.
Got it.
All right, so we're going to continue to queer up entertainment. PIXAR is casting a trans actress for an authentic upcoming character. PIXAR is looking for a transgender actress for an upcoming project. A casting notice posted this week from the Disney animated studio has revealed an exciting new character, though not much else is known about the project she'll appear in. The casting notice says, quote, "The character Jess is a 14-year-old transgender girl. She's compassionate, funny, and always has your back," end quote. PIXAR is looking for 12 to 17-year-old actresses who are enthusiastic, outgoing, funny, and energetic, comfortable with acting in front of a microphone, and can authentically portray a 14-year-old transgender girl. Jess will be PIXAR's first explicitly transgender character ever, and we are glad that the company is choosing to give her accurate representation through casting.
Bravo, Disney. Bravo.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting to me, Orlando has the largest base of Disney employees in the entire world. Of course, PIXAR is based in Los Angeles. But in Florida, where Disney has its largest base of employees, they face two brutal laws in the Florida legislature on trans children in sports, and now this terrible bill that we're going to report tonight about identification and parental rights. It's interesting to me that Disney would step up in this way to say representation matters, and I would warn our governor in Florida and our state legislature, companies like Disney and all over the country where we're seeing all of the trans rights assault, you better take caution, because many business enterprises are saying that is enough, and this is one of the ways that they're doing it.
I love this. I love the visibility. I love the conversation that we're having because of this. We're constantly doing stories on just TV shows that don't use gay actors or don't use transgender actors. And look, here we are saying a story otherwise. This is fantastic, and kudos to PIXAR. I'm just thinking about all those trans little girls that are like, me. Let me sign up for the casting right now. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, you had a really good point. You know, I did an interview with someone who wrote children's books specifically for a child. So, for example, there was a child who was a 9-year-old Black female, and she's like, "Mom, I don't see me in any of these children's books." And so this author would write books specifically to give these people representation. And this is a perfect example. You know, I grew up on those Disney movies. They were my jam. It was the first exposure I had to that type of music. I'm a musical theater person, and it inspired me. And so to finally see this type of representation in a Disney movie, which is going to have such a huge reach, I think it's pretty monumental.
Yeah, it is monumental. It is. I completely agree with you.
I remember seeing Dora the Explorer for the first time and going, look, she's brown, I'm brown,
Right?
oh cool.
And that matters.
Yeah, absolutely, it does matter. Well, next we're going to queer up politics. A little bit of a different kind of story. Caitlyn Jenner announces she is running for California governor. Caitlyn Jenner made international headlines over the weekend in her announcement that she is running for governor of California. Jenner, 71, a longtime outspoken member of the Republican Party, would face incumbent Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom in a likely recall election against Newsom later this year. Being a trans female, her race is a historic first, as she is the first high-profile trans person to run for a governor's office. Jenner said, quote, "California has been my home for nearly 50 years. I come here because I knew that anyone, regardless of their background or station in life, could turn their dreams into reality. But for the past decade, we have seen the glimmer of the Golden State reduced by one-party rule that places politics over progress and special interest over people. Sacramento needs an honest leader with a clear vision," end quote. Jenner has had an uneasy relationship with the LGBTQ community, especially Black trans activists, over the past decade or so for her position supporting the Republican Party.
This smells like just marketing, people. Okay, this is just her trying to be relevant, guys. Do you guys forget who she was married to? Kris Jenner, the mastermind behind a Kardashian sex tape becoming a billion dollar kind of, making a franchise. Okay, so Miss Caitlyn Jenner is being super smart. She's being relevant. She's not gonna win, but it puts her back in our mouths. That sounded wrong.
Well, I mean, it's I'm excited that we have a trans female who is breaking those boundaries. That's wonderful. But do I want another, and I'm going to speak kind of candidly here, do I want another white, affluent, rich Hollywood elite who's over 70 years old representing the people? I don't. I think it's time that we have some fresh blood up there. We need some younger people who really are in touch with what's happening in the world and in their communities. And I think that Caitlyn Jenner has been out of touch for quite some time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's celebrate the symbolism of the achievement, but maybe perhaps not the person that is doing the achievement.
Agreed.
However, Faye, I have to say to you, in terms of your smell of marketing, a couple of notes here. In early 2015, somebody else came down an escalator that had no chance of winning either, and that didn't turn out so well for the LGBTQ community. I just remind you of that. And if you think this smells of marketing, you're drawing on a Jenner. Really, who you should be drawing on is the ultimate mastermind of this kind of marketing, and he lives up at Mar-a-Lago, about 40 miles from our studio, and I'm sure that will have counseling effect on Caitlyn Jenner's run.
God. Next, let's queer up gay culture. Oh my Lord. Lance Bass says Colton Underwood is monetizing his coming out experience. So NSYNC member Lance Bass has criticized The Bachelor star Colton Underwood for monetizing his coming out experience. Underwood, 29, appeared on 3 different versions of ABC's heterosexual reality dating show, The Bachelor, including headlining the 23rd season of The Bachelor in 2019. Earlier this month, the professional football player came out as gay, saying he had, quote, ran from myself for a long time. I've hated myself for a long time and I'm gay, end quote. Underwood experienced backlash after the announcement that Netflix has commissioned a reality series documenting his coming out experience and featuring Olympian and actor Gus Kenworthy as his gay guide. Bass said Underwood was, quote, definitely going to get a lot of backlash from the community at first, end quote. Quote, there's a small percentage of the community that's just going to not like the fact he came out this way, that he's monetizing the experience, end quote. However, Bass ultimately believes that Underwood's series would likely help the LGBTQ community.
Well, talking about someone trying to stay relevant, right? I'm kind of split on this. I think I guess I'm a little frustrated to hear about someone who comes from some level of privilege and how their story gets to be featured, where I bet we all know people, or even the 3 of us have some pretty harrowing stories about what it's really like to come out. And I know many people whose stories deserve to be told and they're not going to get told. So while he gets his platform, I'm not super thrilled about it. The other side of me realizes that I call this like LGBT light or gay 101, where this is going to bring the conversation into some households who maybe, haven't really had this conversation. So I think we're kind of tapping into a possible new demographic with this documentary and coming to Netflix, which is in everybody's home. And I'm going to say something to Colton directly. If you ever need any help about how to come out and how to be gay, just give me a call. I'll help you out.
That's called flirting. Flirting.
It's called helping.
Yes,
helping.
flirting. It's interesting. I'm torn just like you are. That was Lance Bass's point. Lance Bass's point was, whether you like this or not, it is going to have positive effects, because Netflix doing this will expose somebody like Colton in a completely different way and get them to think about LGBTQ and the coming out experience in a completely different way, and that's ultimately positive. So you take the good with the bad, which is what Lance Bass's point is. I'm also very hesitant to criticize someone's coming out experience. And the reason I'm hesitant is because everyone's coming out experience is their own. How they have lived in the closet, how their truth has been expressed, is really something that is highly personal. And we should be exceptionally careful in terms of our criticism of it and when they come out and how long they were in the closet, etc., because there's so much that we do not know. Literally, I think the symbol is true. Walk a mile in my shoes, and that's what I think about in terms of his coming out story.
I initially was like the same, kind of like, Colton, what are you doing? Like, come on, now you're going to come out. You had 3 seasons of The Bachelor, and now you know you're gay. Come on, bro, you know. But then the more I thought about it, I mean, more visibility is important, Al. You know, I love that we have more gay shows, Manny. So any other whatever documentary on LGBTQ community on Netflix, this girl's going to watch.
You know, there used to be a trend of everyone had a Netflix special about comedy. Now we're going to have a Netflix special with everybody coming out. That'll be Netflix new demographic.
It makes me wonder, is it possible to have a Netflix special of Manny stalking Colton? There may be something to that.
I mean, I'll sign up. So next we are going to Queer Up South Florida. So Florida advances a bill that advocates say will out LGBTQ plus students. Transgender advocates fear a bill passed by the Florida legislature will put LGBTQ plus youth at risk in name of keeping parents more involved in decision making. Marketed as a parental bill of rights, queer teens say the legislation, if signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis, will result in students being outed at home, even if that can result in abuse. The bill passed days after a high-profile piece of legislation targeting transgender girls playing sports apparently stalled in the Florida Senate. But while grabbing fewer headlines, it may pose an even greater risk to students expressing identities at school that they cannot present at home. The most concerning aspect of the legislation, especially for LGBTQ plus students, is that it would inform parents if their children access mental health services through school.
I hate this story. I have done so many trans stories in the last 2 months. I'm just sick of all the trans stories that I've done because they're overwhelmingly terrible. And it is because a tiny percentage of state legislators are carrying this banter of carrying this war on against the LGBTQ community that even the majority of even evangelicals do not agree with. I hate that. This parental rights. The other thing I hate, it's not I don't like, I hate about what is going on is it's all doublespeak. They use these phrases to make it sound like it is a positive move when it is doublespeak in the negative. And one of the things that I have to say I'm very happy about is happening on Television Network next month is going to launch a new talk show, and it is called Translation with a capital Trans, and it is going to be completely, we have a great host for it from Ariana Center, Tony Lima, and some of the who's who in the trans community. They're going to be on it talking about the issues of what are going on in trans because they're being used as the wedge issue for 2022 and 2024.
This story, it was super sad, just like you said, Al. It's super sad. What gets me is we were just talking about coming out stories, right? And for each of us, we have our own coming out story, our own journey. And for the most part, our parents are usually the last ones that we tell. Not the last ones, but they're the ones that we're more hesitant. We're more afraid to really tell them. It's like, okay, let me plan this thing, you know? And this wouldn't give a kid an option to go talk to somebody without their parents finding out. My God, that's awful. Like, leave the kids alone. That is heartbreaking, is what it is. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I get what, please.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you know, I am not a parent. I will never be a parent. I do work with a lot of kids, including some on the autism spectrum, LGBT students as well. And I admit that I'm a control freak. So if I were a parent to have a child, and they were, they're minors at the end of the day. And so this kind of comes into the doublespeak that you're talking about. Because when I hear something like a parent will be informed that their kid is accessing mental health services, if you have a child who's under 18, you're going to want to know if your kid is accessing mental health services. But again, it depends on what is the intention behind it. But it's a tough line.
But you could be under 18 and get birth control right now, Manny, as a girl, and not have your parents find out. That is super important. And you know, many women don't have that relation. Many girls don't have that relationship with their parents to be able to, and many LGBTQ even more. Yeah,
it's a very significant minority that are pushing this culture war against the LGBTQ community. Well, let's continue by queering up the world. Steven Spielberg, West Side Story, leaves LGBTQ America breathless. The first trailer for West Side Story danced its way onto the Oscars last night, but most of America missed the secret message of what it is really about. Steven Spielberg's remake of the 1961 classic originated as a 1957 Broadway musical that perhaps had the greatest combination creative team in history. Written by Arthur Laurent, with music by Leonard Bernstein, lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, and the concept, direction, and choreography by Jerome Robbins. It's a who's who.
It tells the story of star-crossed lovers from between two male gangs, the Jets and the Sharks. The film is iconic in the LGBTQ, but perhaps young LGBTQ America does not know why. The story in 1957 and all involved, Lawrence, Bernstein, Sondheim, and Robbins, were all, you guessed it, gay.
It was inspired from Romeo and Juliet as a secret love story told in the only way that 1950s America could comprehend. The anthem, Somewhere, was the star-crossed secret love story to gay America, two men that could not be together because of society's norms.
It is haunting in phrases like, there's a place for us.
There's a time for us.
Someday.
Stephen Sondheim writes, somewhere we'll find a new way of living.
We'll find a way of forgiving.
Leonard Bernstein's music commands, hold my hand and we're halfway there.
Hold my hand and I'll take you there.
Somewhere.
It was the best of these creative geniuses could do in the 1950s. 60 years later, almost to the day, another genius will add to this perfection. Steven Spielberg brings our community West Side Story. Watch this.
There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us.
I can hardly speak. Oh my goodness, I'm like spitting everywhere. This was my favorite part of the Oscars. This and Meryl Streep doing the butt. That was it. That was it. I mean, Glenn Close, sorry, doing the butt. Oh my God, I am blown away. I love that Rita Moreno is also in this version. I wanted more. That trailer didn't give me enough. I have goosebumps all over. And then now the story that we just did about it initially being between two men. I'm about to burst out. Do something. Manny, say something.
No, exactly right. I mean, I had a goosebump just from watching the trailer. Yeah, I mean,
you have unique perspective.
Yeah, this is my wheelhouse. I have a degree in music and theater. And, you know, I am a big believer in the power of the arts. And, you know, anytime they take classic material and modernize it somewhat, or at least to re-envision it for a modern audience, it's going to bring a whole bunch of young people who maybe have never heard of this, who are only singing Frozen. You know what I mean? They can actually add something else to their repertoire. So I'm a huge believer in this. This is amazing.
You know, I'm enthusiastic for this for the number one reason that I imagine a very lion's share of the LGBTQ community under the age 30 has no idea that this exists.
Right.
The existence of it, much less what is behind it, the music behind it. In 1955, when this started to formulate to be a Broadway musical, It debuts in 1957 on Broadway, and the lead actress is so controversial in terms of playing a Puerto Rican, a Latina, that they cast Natalie Wood as a Latin person. The white girl is cast as a Latin person. Rita Moreno gets the secondary role and wins
the Oscar.
And wins the Oscar for it, and is the Latina representation in the movie of what it is supposed to be representing. The other thing that I think is breathtaking I'm so thrilled that this finally comes to film, is can you imagine in those mid-50s when they were sitting writing the words, writing the story, writing the book, writing the music, sitting with those 4 gay icons of this is the only way we can tell a gay man, LGBT love story. It's the only way we can do it. Yeah. And they hide the love story of Romeo and Juliet as a subtext. My God, who would not give their eye teeth to be sitting in the room? To
be a fly on the wall, right?
As they're talking about it. It's just, and remember, this is a full 12 years before the Stonewall riots. A full 12 years. Amazing.
Incredible. It's going to be fantastic. Between that and the Heights trailer,
right?
It was spectacular. The gays, we have so much to watch. Yes. Get ready.
Exactly.
Next, we continue to queer up the world. Biden administration reverses Trump's ban on rainbow flags at embassies. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told American embassies and diplomatic missions today that they can fly the pride flag again, as well as other symbols connecting support for the LGBTQ community, based on what is appropriate in light of local conditions, It's a reversal of the Trump administration's ban on embassies flying the rainbow flag that even resulted in former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to force the U.S. Embassy in Seoul, South Korea, to take down its pride flag. Foreign Policy reports that the rule change is in a confidential cable sent from Washington to chief of missions or head diplomats at outposts around the globe. The cable is a blanket authorization giving all outposts permission to display pro-LGBTQ insignia on or before May 17th, when the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia is observed. This follows through on a pledge Blinken made during his confirmation hearings before the Senate, right before President Joe Biden was inaugurated.
Yeah, you know, it's actually sad that this has to be a story, that we have to actually talk about the fact that we could put up a gay flag. I mean, it's a little bit depressing that this has to be a thing. But, you know, in a positive way, we are chipping away at reversing the 4 years of damage that was done before. And the fact that Blinken made a statement and followed through with it is a nice change for a politician. So,
a couple of thoughts here. First, symbols matter. For Blinken and the State Department, and really the full force of the United States, to say we stand against homophobia. And an example of that is you can fly a rainbow flag at our U.S. embassies to reflect that symbols matter all over the world. This will have dramatic effect all over the world. Second note for me is I cannot wait for this day in May and in June. There's one place in the world that flying this flag means more than any other place in the world. We reported last week, Russia has officially banned the LGBTQ community. No symbolism, no rights, no demonstrations, no parades, no symbols, no flags, no nothing. LGBTQ no longer exists in Russia, except flying the rainbow flag at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow.
Wow, I'm still taken back by Trump saying that he was the president that did more for our community. Remember that big ass lie that he said? And this was one of the things, that he wouldn't let any of the embassies fly our flag for 1 month out of the year, guys. I'm telling you, I have PTSD from him. I'm still hurt from all that.
I agree. It's sad and it's a little scary, but that is in the past, right? Onward and upward, we're moving forward. So we are going to queer up travel. Historic Provincetown venues team up to bring gay tourism back to town. Two of Provincetown's best-known LGBTQ venues are teaming up, Post Office Cafe and Cabaret Bar and Pilgrim House, to turn summer in P-Town around. The Post Office Cafe and Cabaret Bar has been running since 1974. In 2020, for the first time in 45 years, it did not open up for the town's summer season because of, and you guessed it, COVID-19. Pilgrim House is a 19-room historic inn with a history dating back to 1810. It is the oldest hotel in the Cape Cod town. It also has recently been renovated. Pilgrim House owner Ken Horgan told Queer News Tonight that this partnership is a labor of love that demonstrates the power of local collaboration over competition, and offering more entertainment space options for performers, local or otherwise, is our primary motivation, and we look forward to incorporating more local venues, businesses, and nonprofits. Since the launch of #PTownTogether, other businesses have reached out to Pilgrim House to become involved. The pandemic has made many businesses realize that the importance of working together rather than viewing each other as competition.
A couple of notes here that I think is interesting. First off, we're broadcasting from the gayest place on planet Earth, Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, South Florida. We have South Beach, of course. Could the observation of working together be illustrated more than in any LGBTQ community in the country? I love this story because right out of the gate of pandemic, two major brands in Provincetown, which is, you can argue Provincetown, Palm Springs, and Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, there are gay meccas of our resort communities. Right out of the gate, Provincetown says, nope, let's work together, because that's how we're going to get back the fastest. I love that story.
And so much is going on in P-Town, right? They just filmed American Horror Story.
Yeah.
We interviewed Lea Delaria the other day. Yeah. She says she's got a place there.
And has a show.
And has a show there. There's so much going on in P-Town. We got to get over there. And so many people were affected by COVID. These places that thrive and live off their seasons were really, really hurt. A lot of places closed down there. So I love that they're working together instead of hurting each other. No competition. We're just going to get this place like booming again.
Yeah, agreed. And I think what I like about the story is that I look at it at a more macro level where kind of like throughout history, like gays have had to support other gays because we weren't able to get support from anywhere else. So I think this is a really nice example of the gay community banding together to help each other out.
Oh, that's a great observation. I love that.
So that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies. Queer News Tonight has been LGBTQ America's most important news source on the pandemic, as we have reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020.
Tonight, we report the devastating effect coronavirus has had on the American and worldwide LGBTQ community in total cases and deaths. We also provide hope of a new light at the end of this long tunnel. As of tonight, more than 2,297,000 LGBTQ Americans have contracted COVID-19, and more than 41,000 LGBTQ Americans have died from coronavirus. As of today, more than 228 million vaccination doses have been administered in the U.S.
With all of that in mind, let's queer up Quarantine Quickies. Vaccination success has been incredible for the LGBTQ community. The CDC is reporting vaccine results for those fully vaccinated now. More importantly, the results of what is called breakthrough COVID-19 infection, even after you are fully vaccinated. Here are the up-to-the-minute results for the LGBTQ community. There are now 87 million Americans fully vaccinated. 7,157 of them have contracted COVID-19 after being fully vaccinated, while 498 have been hospitalized with serious complications. After 87 million fully vaccinated Americans, only 88 have died. After 560,000 deaths, the vaccine is a miracle for the LGBTQ community. Listen to the science. Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated like right now. Like our LGBTQ community, we're smart people, okay? We are. Remember when we asked Leah about getting vaccinated and she was like, our community knows what's up. We're not stupid. It's the truth. We're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting others. I've got a friend of mine that's got a bunch of underlying conditions, guys, right? Like his doctors have been like, please be careful, be careful. He got one part of the vaccine and unfortunately contracted COVID, okay? If it wasn't for the fact that he had gotten that first shot, he would have been in the hospital intubated for sure because of how many underlying conditions. So half the vaccine already helped him.
Sure.
And he was hesitant about getting that. Thank goodness he did. Vaccinations is the only way that we're going to get out of this deal. Seriously.
Yeah. You know, unfortunately, I think our LGBT community is not always afraid of deadly viruses. I think we kind of have a history of that. And sometimes, you know, I've gone out in the community and I'll peek into some places, and because of Florida being where it is, you know, a lot of people are kind of living life as it was before. And so I'm like, hey, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. Then go ahead and get the vaccination and you can live. If you want to do that, then at least you've done your part and you're vaccinated.
You know, we have 41,000 LGBTQ Americans that have passed because of coronavirus. That is a full stop moment.
Yeah.
Even in the era of AIDS, that is a full stop moment. When you see these statistics of 87 million full vaccinations and less than 100 people have had breakthrough infection that has led to death, literally the vaccine is a miracle. The developers that created this new technology they're just heroes. They're heroes in the lives that they have saved in the LGBTQ community. Heroes.
So that is our COVID-19 news for tonight. Next, we report that Happening Out Television Network is passionate about our support for the LGBTQ community. An example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale.
We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine and supporting that partnership. The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And it's totally live. We encourage you to tune in. Our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral, and it's my queer church. Watch this.
Hi, I'm Victor Diaz-Herman, Chief Executive Officer of Pride Lines, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set and this amazing queer church campus possible.
Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive and our host and guest stay at this LGBTQ ally partner. We encourage you to stay here whenever you're visiting South Florida.
Well, next, Queer News Tonight is proud to showcase many of the film directors during the 23rd annual OUTshine LGBTQ Film Festival. Happening Out Television Network is a premier sponsor. Tonight, we are pleased to feature the film Can You Bring It? Bill T. Jones and D-Man in the Waters.
This feature documentary traces the history and legacy of one of the most important works of art to come out of the age of AIDS. In 1989, D-Man in the Waters gave physical manifestation to the fear, anger, grief, and hope for salvation that the Bill T. Jones Arnie Zane Company felt as they were embattled by the AIDS epidemic. As a group of young dancers reconstructs the dance in the present day, they learn about this oft-forgotten history and deepen their understanding of the power of art in a time of plague.
Joining us tonight are co-directors Rosalynd LeBlanc and Tom Hurwitz. Rosalind's career as a performer, choreographer, and educator spans over 25 years. She danced with the Bill T. Jones Arnie Zane Company, Mikhail Baryshnikov's White Oak Dance Project, and with many independent choreographers. She is currently an associate professor and chair of the dance program at Loyola Marymount University. Tom is one of America's most honored documentary filmmakers, winner of 2 Emmy Awards, the Sundance and Jerusalem Film Festival Awards for Best Cinematography. He has photographed films that have won 4 Academy Awards and several more nominations.
Well, to tell us more about Can You Bring It? Bill T. Jones and D-Man in the Waters, virtually playing at the OUTshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival now through Wednesday, April 28th, is producer and co-director Rosalynd LeBlanc and co-director and director of photography Tom Hurwitz. Welcome, Rosalynd and Tom, to Queer News Tonight.
It's great to
Thank
be
you.
Well, we've had a lot of news tonight. We appreciate you being patient with us. I want to start in terms of the theme of the film. We have just done an extensive report on COVID-19 and the effect of pandemic on the LGBTQ community. As you hear us report on that news, does it bring back any memories of the construction of your film in terms of the height of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s?
Absolutely. I think that it is, the parallels are definitely there, although very different pandemics and epidemics in the way they've played out. But undoubtedly, the parallels are there, and just the notion of the idea of collectivity, what it takes to survive, what it takes to get through when your community is threatened in such a way.
Do you find through your film, one of the things that I lived through the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s is it so disproportionately affected creative people that were in performing arts, and so dramatically affected the percentage of creative people. As you were exploring the construction of your film, I know both of you are in this industry and field, but did it wash over you as a fresh reminder as you were doing this, just dramatically the loss that the LGBTQ community felt from your community?
Completely. For me, and I'm sure for Roz as well, living in New York and being in the artistic community, someone says in the film, she lost half of her address book. I lost a third of my address book. It was like a scythe had come through and just cut down the most wonderful, talented, beautiful people that we all knew. And New York was, as a place, because it's the center of so much the artistic world in the United States, New York was sitting under a cloud during that period. And there was a similar cloud, different in terms of the people that COVID hit. COVID tended to hit the poor, Latinx and Black communities, but there was this oppressive cloud over New York, a cloud of threat, where the ambulances were running through every night during our worst time, and we were called on to all stick together. It was a very important thing.
I'm curious, Tom, for you to go through both. That's super interesting to me, to go through what you witnessed in the 80s and 90s with AIDS, and now what you have witnessed in the last 14 months in pandemic. Did the ambulances and the I remember Mercy coming in to the West Side Pier, and what we watched New York. New York is not, even today, what we see in Fort Lauderdale and in South Florida. We have basically, if you would, you'd be hard pressed to know pandemic is going on here in South Florida. It's not what you're seeing in New York and other places around the corner. Did it give you, when you heard the sirens, et cetera, and the people that you were watching in the LGBT arts community in New York, did it give you a sort of PTSD of it's such a reminder of what pandemic had already been experienced by you?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the film did too, to tell you the truth. Hearing the stories in the film, going through the images in the film as we did, there was PTSD there too, I think, for both of us.
Tell us please, both of you, tell us about the film and why it should be seen, especially by the LGBTQ community here in Florida.
The film is really, it uses dance as the medium, and it is a story about a dance, but it is not necessarily a dance film. And the reason why is because it is really about what it takes to survive, and the ways in which art becomes the outlet, the thing we need in order to both galvanize, I guess, the will to get through to the next day, and then also the expression about what it's like to go through what a community is going through. Oftentimes, in our moments of the most profound experience, there aren't words. And that's the realm of dance. That's where movement and dance takes over. So the film is important because it really touches on a very universal experience in that way. And definitely what Tom is saying is true, which is that, there is a certain amount of PTSD if you lived through the height of the AIDS crisis, that there is a valuable memory there, collective memory, that I think comes back now too, when you think about what prophylactic do we need to keep each other safe. It's different than it was in the 80s and 90s, but it no less critical in terms of keeping people alive. So just that idea of being community minded.
All implemented through the metaphor of dance.
And art. The thing is that we need the prophylactic, right? Yeah. But we also need art to remind us what life is, to allow us to revive, to relive, to join life again. And that's what the film is about. It's about the role of art in bringing life back.
It's an interesting metaphor that I want to come to the festival itself. Both of you have such vast experience in film and entertainment in so many different ways. I quite imagine the last year has been quite unique for you, just as it has been for all of us. But I make the connection to the Zoom meeting. Independent film festivals have created this clever process to say, we're not a Zoom meeting, and we're displaying entertainment in new and interesting ways. Your film is being displayed in the same kinds of medium that a Zoom meeting is, but it does something much, much more important than that, because it brings the illustration of the art right off of that screen. And in the world that we're currently living in, it's the best we can do. So it's an illustration that this is still, our need for art is so great that we are even going to consume it in this way. What do y'all think about what you're watching for independent film festivals and the distribution of your art and the arts in the way that we have watched in the last year, especially in recent months?
Well, we are hoping to open the film theatrically in real theaters. And that's going to happen at around the beginning of the summer.
Oh,
but what I'd ask people to do, if you want to watch it at this film festival, is to please try to watch it on as big a screen as possible. So whatever you have in your house, try not to watch it on your phone. If the next size up what you have is an iPad, watch it on that. If you can get to your desktop computer, watch it on that. Watch it as big as you can, because it really wants to be seen as a full experience.
Yeah, you've excited me there. Note to self, don't watch it on my laptop. Watch it on my big screen at home. I hear you loud and clear, Tom. I'm curious, with both of your experience in the arts and both performance and medium arts, Sundance and Emmys, etc. What's your experience been like in terms of doing independent film festivals? In this year in pandemic, we continue to point out that our nonprofits, especially in the LGBTQ community, are more vital and more important and more stressed and more endangered than ever before. So it requires more commitment, not less commitment. What's your reaction to independent, especially LGBTQ film festivals like OUTshine? Why are they important in this day and age?
I think they're critical. I mean, I think that one of the things that is most important, especially at times like this, in times of social crisis, is to not let go of, I guess, certainly the arts, but then also traditionally marginalized communities, because I think in a way it's easy for people to begin to think, well, there's almost like a greater, more universal experience, and so if it's an affinity group, then how can the rest of the world relate, and why do we need that? Well, that's actually not I think more what we have to think about is through the particulars of the personal you find the universal, and it is through the particulars of the personal experience that you find where you fit in, because ultimately struggle, love, perseverance, family, we all feel that, we all have those needs. And so yes, it's critical to be a part of a festival such as OUTshine. We're incredibly honored to be a part of it.
Very much so.
Yeah, and we echo the South Florida and Florida community is very honored we're very honored that you are presenting in the OUTshine Film Festival. I'm excited to watch your film from listening to you. I wanted to ask you quickly before we wrap up Queer News tonight. Rosalynd, you're coming from Loyola Marymount now. You're in Southern California?
Yes.
Yes, and Tom, you're coming from New York right now?
And I'm from New York, yeah.
I just want to shout out to both of you. Loyola Marymount, in my opinion, I've been many times, is one of the most creative campuses in the country. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful in terms of its creative embracement in Eastern Los Angeles. And Tom, I don't
couldn't
know.
agree with you more about Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, it's just incredible. It's
well,
not,
that's wonderful.
It's not known as well as it really should be. And Tom, I don't know when's the last time you've been to South Florida, but we invite you. The moment you both feel comfortable, please reach out to us. We would love to have you here in South Florida and explore many, many other things besides your exciting new documentary. Our LGBTQ community would love to meet you personally. And Tom, let me just tell you, the LGBTQ community in Florida and in South Florida, we cannot wait to get on that first plane ride back to New York. We are dying and jonesing to come back to New York.
Yeah.
Broadway,
Well,
please
we want
open.
you to come. We can't wait till you get here.
We are. I just cannot even tell you the pent-up demand that is coming. New York is going to see a tidal wave when this is all better, like they have never seen before. Fear not, New York. America is coming, I assure you. Well, the film is running at OUTshine Film Festival. It is Can You Bring It? Bill T. Jones and D-Man in the Water. Very exciting. And remember the recommendation from Rosalynd LeBlanc and Tom Hurwitz. Don't watch it on your mobile device. Watch it on your big screen at home, and you're going to love it even more. At the OUTshine Film Festival, displaying all week. Rosalynd, Tom, thank you. It's been quite a pleasure meeting you tonight, and we wish you all the success
So much for having us.
in coming out of pandemic. We know it's going to be a great year for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosalynd. Thank you, Tom. So that is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing, ring the bell for updates, and share this news. We're the only LGBTQ television live video news in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines, and we need your support.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of anchors Faye Watt and Manny Simone, we will see you daily and tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.